Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to talk about, well, my worries and concerns for Spider-Man 3. I am worried, is Spider-Man 3 in danger of being Iron Man 2? Now, what I mean by that is, personally speaking, I don't think Iron Man 2 is a bad film. I don't think it's a good film. I think it's an okay film. I think it's one of the weakest movies in the MCU. I think its only saving grace is the perform. I think its only real saving grace is one, the Iron Man suit, especially the briefcase suit. That was cool. The final battle with War Machine and Iron Man was badass, and the introduction of Don Cheadle as Rhodey was cool, and Robert Downey Jr. was still great in the movie. So those things kept that movie entertaining, but the plot was not that great. There are whole plot holes all over the place. There's wasted potential. It had one of the worst villains, It has one of the worst villains in a comic book movie. Like Ivan's not as bad as Malekith in Thor: The Dark World, So let's put it this way: he's better than some, but he is not a good villain. He's one of the worst villains in the MCU. It really doesn't really do the problem with it is that it was doing more setup, and even though it introduced Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, which I enjoyed Scarlett Johansson in the movie as, Natasha Romanoff, but she didn't have a lot to do, and it was just kind of almost like a it was a setup movie. It did so much setup that the setup of setting up the Avengers, of setting up, Black Widow, of setting up the future, setting up all these characters, that movie was so focused on setting things up that it prioritized world building and setting up other things over the actual movie itself, and then spending so much time trying to world build and showing the relationship, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, setting up the whole thing with Thor, that Coulson's going off to see the Hammer and Thor, setting up the fact that in the end, with the whole map in the background, with those being locations of concern, one being in Mexico, which is Thor, one being in the Middle Atlantic Ocean, which some people suspect is Namor, and one being in Africa. And there was some other locations, but those ones specifically kind of made us go, oh, they're setting it up. That whole movie was just set up the movie. That was the entire basis of the movie. That was the entire point of the movie. And it, like I said, it put its actual story and actual plot of what Tony Stark's going through, him pushing people away because he thinks he's dying. They kind of put that on the back burner. They didn't have enough time to breathe and really get something out of it. And it really hurt that movie. And like I said, I don't hate Iron Man 2. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I don't think it's one of the worst superhero movies of all time, like some people think. I think it's an okay movie with very redeemable things in it. I think Thor: Dark World is much worse than this movie, but this movie it's in the same category with it. But like I said, it has some redeemable things to it. And like I said, one of the biggest problems with that movie was that it was spending too much time trying to set up stuff, trying to world build, trying to do all these other things other than focusing on the actual movie and the characters in it. And I'm very afraid, and it feels like it's going that direction with Spider-Man 3. All the stuff I'm hearing, you gotta understand, after you watch Spider-Man Far From Home, your mind doesn't jump to, your mind just immediately goes, okay, so Peter's gonna be able to run, maybe they're gonna introduce Kraven the Hunter, because, they haven't really done anything that crazy, they really kind of took the time. The MCU has really taken the time to, introduce characters that haven't been introduced before, and, Mysterio, Vulture, so you're thinking, everyone's thinking this, everyone's like, oh, okay, Peter's gonna be on the run, He's going to be on the run. He's going to be trying to find a way to clear his name. Trying to find a way to let people know that he isn't Spider-Man. We don't know how he's going to get out of this, but we're curious to find out. And we're like, okay, so the villain's probably going to be like Chameleon or Kraven the Hunter or someone along that line. Maybe a Norman Osborn's going to show up and try to help Peter out. But we're thinking it's going to be a character, more of a character piece. And maybe since they have that weird, and maybe another hero will come in and kind of give Peter a pep talk or kind of help Peter out, or another hero will be involved in the mix. Maybe another hero wrapped into something that Peter's also wrapped in, and he has to save them, something along those lines. But but in the end of the day, you're thinking it's going to be a 1 hour, a 2 hour, and a 2 hour and 10 minutes fun ride where Peter's on the run. He's got to find a way to not only find a way to like convince people he's not Spider-Man, but find a way to convince people he didn't murder Mysterio and that he's innocent. So that's what you're thinking it was going to be. And I had plenty of ideas of how that was going to be. One of them was in fact him running into running into fucking maybe a more edgier Gwen Stacy, who's a bit more edgier, but she's still like a smart genius, and she's still beautiful and blonde, but like more edgier Gwen Stacy. Maybe she's trying to help her out, and there's like a love triangle. I had all kinds of ideas how Spider-Man 3 was gonna go, but slowly over the course of only a couple of weeks, but really months ago, it started to kind of become apparent that Spider-Man 3 wasn't gonna be what we thought it was gonna be. And it started to take a turn, and with all these recent news, especially some news today, it's becoming more Iron Man 2. First of all, Doctor Strange is going to be in it, which on its own isn't that big of a deal. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man have interactions all the time in the comics, and it would make a lot of sense if Doctor Strange is somehow going to help him clear his name and like erase everyone's minds or some shit, so no one thinks so no one knows who he is, and or something along those lines, or make it look like it's doctorate or something. It makes sense that they were going to do something like that. So I was like, okay, Doctor Strange on his own. But then when you hear the rumors about Electro from another, like Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, then you hear rumors about them trying to get both Spider-Mans. They're trying to get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to come back to reprise their roles as Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3. Then you hear about you hear rumors like, oh, Marvel's already found their Miles Morales, which kind of says, okay, you guys planning on having Miles Morales be in this too? It's a lot going on. And like, by the way, all that shit I just said is on top of the stuff that that happened at the end of Spider-Man 2. I mean, of Far From Home, which is his identity's revealed. He's a wanted for murder. Everyone knows who he is. And he's wanted for murder. What is he gonna do? Like, that story alone is good enough to base something off of. But now they're throwing in Doctor Strange, now they're throwing in the multiverse, now they're throwing in multiple different Spider-Mans, they're throwing in a villain from an alternate dimension. They're doing a lot of stuff, and it makes me nervous because like I said, a lot of people in my comment section have already commented that, oh well, it's Marvel, but you have to understand, when it comes to Spider-Man, particularly, it's not just Marvel, it's Sony too. They're not like, it's mostly Sony in terms of who gets to make, like, the thing is, the way the Sony and Marvel/Disney relationship works is Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man, and Marvel has negotiated to have a little bit more in it for them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit more in it for Marvel for it to succeed, because there's a little bit more money they're gonna get back. I believe they're gonna get something like 25% or like 40, something like that. Like, they're gonna finance like 25% and get 25% back, like full. Because they were just getting like 5% one weekend. Like, they were just, oh yeah, we'll give you 5% of the, I think it was like the opening night gross. That's it, like the opening night gross. You get like 5% of the opening weekend gross, and then the rest is ours. Like, that was their relationship. So that's what Marvel, that was their relationship for Far From Home and Homecoming, was basically that weekend they got 5% or whatever that weekend gross was, and then Sony kept the rest. So like, that was their relationship, and of course Marvel's like, and the thing is, Sony gets final say on all the decisions with Spider-Man. So you might hear a lot of people saying, like, trying to give Sony credit for a lot of the things too, because, oh, at the end of the day, Sony has to okay it. But the thing is, basically, Marvel are the creative force of this Spider-Man. They're the creative force of the new Tom Holland Spider-Man in Far From Home and in Homecoming. They were the ones who were like, okay, we want this relationship, we want this, we want that. We would like it to be like this, we would like it to be like that. If we're going to do this, we want it to do it like this. And Sony has to say yes or no. That's kind of the thing. That kind of seems to be the thing. But with that being said, it's still Sony's yay or nay. So we will never know what Sony said yes to and what Sony said no to. So this thing could end up becoming a new Iron Man 2, where there's so much going on, there's so much pushing forward, they're trying to do too much shit in this movie, because there is a lot of shit that is being said that's going to be in this movie. Now, I have my suspicions that not all of this is going to be in this movie. I have my suspicions that a lot like how the Russo brothers were talking about Avengers Endgame, before Avengers Endgame ever came out, when they were talking about a movie being a heist movie and being kind of all over the, like, very crazy and all over the place, that people thought they were talking about Infinity War when they were talking about Endgame. I have a feeling that some of these reports about characters popping up in Spider-Verse and whatnot are actually not in Spider-Man 3, but like it's like they're gonna, but either A, they're not in Spider-Man 3, or A, they're smaller than people think they are. Like, I have a gut suspicion that Electro isn't the main villain. Like, Electro is gonna be like in it for a moment. It's gonna be like hinted to, and maybe Jamie Foxx's character shows up for like a brief second. I just can't, like, I just don't know if they're gonna go that far, because it just feels like such a huge leap. The MCU has been so methodical about building to things that just shoving all this stuff in one movie just seems a bit crazy, especially since if I remember, Spider-Man 3 is coming out before Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Maybe if it was coming out after, I'd be like, okay, but like well, we have to see. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what WandaVision does. Maybe WandaVision will explain, but I just don't know. This COVID thing has really screwed a lot of things up. Like, Spider-Man 3 was supposed to already be in production. Like, it's supposed to already be happening. So it makes me think that, you know, this time has just made people, it's just opened up windows for Sony to start fucking with Marvel even more. But I don't know. I'm concerned, though. Hopefully I have nothing to be concerned for. But what do you think? Are you concerned that Spider-Man 3 is gearing up to become Iron Man 2? Is it gearing up to be a movie that plays world building and, just world building and just setting up over the actual story and the character? Because it feels like being buried in all of this news is everyone forgetting about what just happened to Peter in Far From Home, which we all assumed was going to be, generally speaking, one of the big story points, but it sounds like it's like the last thing on anyone's mind right now, which kind of makes me go, I hope you guys aren't pushing this too far. There's someone on this great YouTube channel and great Twitch called Double Toasted. There's a guy on there who said something very familiar to what I think is happening, which is Marvel has a plan, Sony caught wind of that plan, and Sony wants to hop in on that plan. Not to mention, there's even more reports that Sony wants to have a closer relationship with the MCU, which of course they fucking want to have a closer relationship with the MCU. I had a commenter not that long ago when I talked about this say something along the lines of, well, you can say whatever you want, but Marvel can't do what Sony can do. And I kind of was thinking to myself, I was like, what exactly is that? What exactly can... Oh, they can make Venom? Is that the hill you want to die on? Venom? Oh, call me when you make $2 billion twice. Thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please remember to like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.